Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Welcome to this webinar, Getting Started with Testable. First of all, just to make sure that you can hear me okay, if a few of you can just wave at me, you should have an option at the bottom of the screen. Okay, excellent. So let me stop the screen sharing for a second and just to say hello to everyone. I hope you can see me. Oops, if we stop here. Okay. Stop share. Excellent. Okay, excellent. Hi, everyone. I'm Kosti. I'm the founder of Testable, and I will try to introduce you to the basic things that you can do with Testable. We will go through a number of features, products, solutions that we offer here at Testable. We'll talk about the software Testable, the one that you can use to create experiments. We'll talk about the subject pool, Testable Minds. We'll talk also about the module that we developed for teaching psychology, Testable Class, and also just a bit about Testable Arena, which is our multiplayer environment. I will start with a very, very short presentation. I have just a few slides about what is Testable, and then I will jump straight into demonstrating live how you can create an account, how you can create experiments, how you can post experiments on Testable Minds, and so on. Let me also tell you that whenever you have questions, you can use the option Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Just type in your question. I should receive a notification, and then I will try to answer all these questions live. These questions can come during the presentation. I'm not sure I will get to answer them immediately, but definitely at the end or towards the end of the presentation, I will try to answer all the questions that I receive from you. All right, so let's go back to the presentation and to a few slides that I have prepared about what is Testable. Well, in a nutshell, is a web platform for psychology research and teaching. It enables you to create experiments, to create surveys, and you can use it also for data collection. You can also use it in class in your introduction to psychology or introduction to research methods to initiate students to research. It was created by experienced researchers and teachers from US and UK. We have a pretty strong advisory team of academics. I will go through them towards the end of this small presentation. These are the four products that I'm going to talk about today. Testable software, that's the main tool from Testable. Then we have the subject pool, Testable Minds. We have Testable Class, the module for teaching psychology, and we have Testable Arena, the multiplayer environment. So Testable software, you can use it to create state-of-the-art behavioral experiments and surveys in minutes, and it's really in minutes. Testable is powerful and flexible, yet very simple to learn and to use. You don't need to worry about any operating system compatibility issues. There is no software to install on your computer or on participants' computers. All the experiments and surveys run in any web browser. Also, experiments run online and offline. So you need internet access to preload an experiment to access the link, but then you can cut the connection and the experiment is still going to run on the local machine. And you can also save data on the local machine. So you can use it for testing remotely. You can use it for testing patients at home and so on. It has a strong and friendly community. We have over 4,000 users now from 100 plus universities around the world. So currently, if you want to create an experiment, what options do you have? Well, the first option is that you program it yourself, right? And many of us would have done this in graduate school. We learn how to program in order to be able to create experiments. The other option is that you use some software. And most of these softwares, if not all, come with graphical user interfaces that you need to learn. And that's not an easy learning curve. Some of these graphical user interfaces can be quite complicated to master. I just printed here one example. With Testable, you don't need any programming, and you don't need to learn any complicated graphical user interface. Because in Testable, we use just natural language. We have this natural language form that you need to fill in with information about the experiment, about the trials, how you would like your trials to be, what kind of stimuli to display, for how long, and how you'd like to record the responses from participants, and so on. And then you generate the experiment. So you need this natural language form plus a spreadsheet that is associated with every experiment. This spreadsheet is a trial file. That's where all the information about an experiment in Testable is summarized. And that's where you edit your experiment. We'll go through that in a minute when we start the presentation. Despite this simplicity, don't be fooled. Testable can be used for very, very complex experiments. And we estimate that it covers around 95% of all psychology experiments out there. So you can present different kinds of stimuli, images, words, scenarios, audio, video. You can have simultaneous or sequential presentation. You can have trial by trial definition of all timing parameters. You have a complete range of response options, including voice responses, something that you don't find very often. You also have multi-level trial and block randomization, a random selection of subset of trials, random counterbalance allocation to subject group, advanced feedback based on responses from previous trials. You can define response time windows. You can have advanced logic or branching in your experiment. You can even implement staircases. And you have the option also to turn any testable experiment into a social experiment or multiplayer experiment with many participants completing the study at the same time, seeing each other's images, responses, and so on. Data security, we are fully GDPR compliant. All data related to Testable are stored on state-of-the-art servers located in Germany, accessible only by a limited number of persons who have special access rights to such systems and who are required to keep the information confidential. All sensitive information you supply is encrypted via SSL technology. This is a comparison between Testable and any graphical user interface software out there. So you see, there are some significant advantages in using Testable. So when it comes to learning how to use it, it really doesn't take you more than an hour, usually between 30 and 60 minutes to master Testable. Graphical user interface may take you days. When it comes to creating an experiment from scratch, it takes you between 5 and 10 minutes with Testable, and may take you even hours with the other softwares. Sometimes it's faster, but still it takes you like 20-30 minutes with the other graphical user interface softwares. You have logic. You also have staircases. Most of the other softwares out there don't offer an out-of-the-box solution for staircases. Testable can be used offline as well. Some of the others, yes, others, no. We have a very strong academic board. We produce all the results in an easy-to-use format for SPSS and for R, for data analysis. We have our own subject pool, which ensures a direct connection between the experiment and the participants. We can also use this subject pool to manage students' credits, similar to the SONA system that you have in some universities. We also have a dedicated teaching module. We received an award for the software from the Association for Psychological Science in 2015, 2016, I think, when we started it. And then we have this multiplayer environment for social studies that you cannot find with most of the other solutions. A few words about Testable Minds, our subject pool. This is the website for Testable Minds for the participants. The slogan there is "Lend your mind to science." We have the most advanced verification system for participant recruitment. And these are not just words. It is really the most advanced verification system. I will go through this verification system when I demonstrate how to use Testable Minds later on during this presentation. In terms of numbers, we have 12,000 minds, verified, reliable, and enthusiastic. They need to rely on face authentication to sign up for studies. 85% of them have English as first language. Around 80% of them are based in US and UK. The mean age is 34.9 years old, 54% female, 46% male. Many come from MTurk or Prolific. We put participants on equal footing with researchers. So when you post a study on Testable Minds, you will also be rated by participants. How interesting was that study, if the researcher paid on time, if they were reliable, and so on. And state-of-the-art design for the subject poll. On the participant side, we are about to implement a new design also for the researcher side. Testable Minds versus other subject pools. You have here a quick comparison when it comes to commission. We have lower commission with university license. We have also this advanced verification system. We have photo ID check. We verify participants for age, sex, location. We use face authentication. We have the possibility to add and select own students and participants. We also review all the studies before launch, and that comes for free. So we make sure that you don't have any bugs, and we make sure even to point out some minor errors related to how experiments are run, or just to make sure that's exactly what you wanted to do. So it's an expert review, not just from a technical point of view. And we offer money back if you are not satisfied with the quality of the data, up to $100 study. So best to start with $100 study. See if you're happy with the data. If not, no questions asked. We can give you the money back. And then we have Testable Class. That's a module dedicated to teachers, to instructors of psychology. They can create classes for students to join. They can import ready-made experiments or create novel experiments for their classes. They can control when and what tests the students see. They run the experiments for credit, and they can run the experiments in class and visualize results in real time. For students, they can run experiments that are made available in the class. They can collect and analyze their own data. They can compare it to group data, and they can create their own experiments. So all in all, Testable is more than a psychology testing software. We see it as an educational tool that enables instructors to engage students in hands-on research experience. We see it as a transparency tool because you can make your experiments available to reviewers and readers by placing a permanent link in the paper. No method sections can compare with actually doing the experiment. So if you add a simple link in your paper to where the experiment can be checked online, it's much better for anyone reading your paper. And also is a replication tool because it simplifies the replication efforts. You can pull data from different labs, and you can have even students try to replicate existing experiments to reveal which effects are robust and replicable. And all in all, it's just a great student learning experience. A few words about our advisory board. As said, some academics who you may be familiar with. So we have Bahadur Bahrami, we have Michael Banessy from Goldsmith, we have Irving Biderman from USC, we have Alfonso Caramazza from Harvard, we have Ophelia DeRoy from LME München, we have Brad Duchesne from Dartmouth, we have Liuba Papeo from Institut des Sciences Cognitives in France, we have Sophie von Stum. She recently changed affiliation, not anymore London School of Economics. We have Tirtha Susilo from Victoria University of Wellington, and we have Vincent Walsh from Institute of Cognitive Neuroscience, UCL. So we make sure that the directions that we choose for Testable are in accordance with what the field needs, and they follow the suggestions that we receive from our current users, but also from the advisory board. And some of these people here in the advisory board were also very kind to help us with funding at the start or later on. So special thanks to Bahadur, special thanks to Alfonso, to Ophelia, to Brad, and to Tirta. So that's it for the slides. These are some just universities who currently use Testable. Okay, so I can now move to demonstrating you how to use Testable. Let me share the browser. Okay. So when you access Testable, the first thing you want to do, obviously, is to create an account. So you need to go here to sign in. And if you don't have an account yet, you need to click on sign up here. You'll be taken to this form. Always use your academic email address. So that's how you can use Testable for free in the beginning to record up to 20 results. You can also create unlimited experiments and so on with this basic academic account. It is also important to use your university email address because we have departmental licenses with certain universities, and then if we recognize that email address, we will automatically add you to that university license. So if I want to sign up, let's say, if I have an email address from UCL, when I type in my email address and I go to the next field, you'll see that the institution is filled in automatically. We recognize the institution. We also recognize if you have a departmental license with them, and then we hide this option for you to select the type of account that you would like. You need to fill in the information about the first and the last name, and also choose a password for the account to read and agree with the terms of the use and with the privacy policy, and then click on next. You'll get an email to verify your account, and then you can confirm the account with Testable. After that, you're all good to go. So you can click on sign in, or if you go from the main page, you go back here, you click here, sign in. The email address that you used, it should be a university email address. Disregard the email address that I'm using here, and the password that you selected. And then you'll be taken to this space. That's the workspace where you see all the projects that you created with Testable. Obviously, the first time you log in, that's going to be empty. You're not going to have anything here. So let's start with demonstrating Testable, the software used to create experiments. The best thing to do is to click on Quick Project. If you click on Quick Project, you get this natural language form where you can start defining your experiment. Here, you need to choose the type of stimuli that you want to present in your experiment. So you can choose between images, words, sounds, videos. Let's go with images. You can define how many of them. We go up to 6 in this form, but you can have an unlimited number of stimuli. So let's go with 3 images, for example. If it's images, you need to select the format between JPEG, PNG, BMP, and GIF. Then you tell the program if you'd like to present the stimuli, all 3 of them in a trial, simultaneously or sequentially. Note that if I change here to sequential presentation, then I'm also asked about the number of screens that I want to use for this sequential presentation. And it can be a maximum of 3. It can be a maximum of 3 because we have 3 images in this trial. Let's go with something very simple for the beginning, simultaneous presentation for unlimited time or a limited time. If it's limited time, we need to define, let's say, 3 seconds, so 3,000 milliseconds, and no masking afterwards. You can select also to display a text above the stimuli. Let's do that. You can use it to give instructions to participants. And then you need to say whether you would like to allow participants to respond or not. Sometimes it's just about a passive presentation of stimuli. You present some stimuli for learning, for memory, but in most cases, you would want participants to be able to respond. And if you enable responses, you have several options here as well. You can ask them to press certain keys on the keyboard. You can print some buttons on the screen that participants need to click. Or you can ask for a text from them, which can be a short text or a longer text. Let's say that we want to go with pressing keys. If you go with pressing keys, you need to define the keys that you want enabled. Let's say in this case 1 and 0. So participants need to press 1 and 0. If you want to select clicking buttons, you need to define the labels for the buttons. And depending on how many labels you have here, that's how many buttons you will see on the screen. So if I write here as well NA, let's say, so left, right, and NA, then I'm going to have 3 buttons on the screen, left, right, and NA. Let's go with pressing keys. For this demonstration, you can also define whether you have a response correct in your experiment, predefined. Let's go with that. And if you want to present feedback for participants or not. And that's it about defining the trials. Now you have to say how many screens you would like with instructions. Let's go with 1. How many practice trials? Let's go with 0. We make it very short. And 5 main trials so that we can quickly go through the whole experiment. Last option here, whether you would like the trials to be randomized or not. So let's go for randomization. And that's it. You can see we spent a bit of time now, but once you've done it once, it takes you 1 minute to use this form and to generate the experiment. Generate project. Quick project created. Your experiment is the newest one under project. To add, delete, modify trials in your experiment, download the trial file, make the necessary changes, and upload it back. If you need more advanced options, check the manual. For general options, project name, how to save data, and so on, go to setup. So if you click on done here, you will see the most recent quick project. In this case, it's number 5 for me. It's created for you. This is the link where the experiment is up and running. So if I click on this link, we can see the experiment with some basic text, the default text that we have for the different options, and the default images. We start any experiment displaying visual stimuli with a calibration screen to make sure that the size of the stimuli is the same regardless of the screen resolution. So participants need to adjust this line to match the length of a credit card. And then this is the screen with the instructions. The default text is title for instructions. The content, default content is content for instructions. That's the default text for the buttons. Next, if I click on next, I see the first trial like we defined it. 3 images. These are the 3 default images from Testable. They are on the screen for 3 seconds. They disappear afterwards. That's the instructions to appear above the text to appear above the stimuli. If I press now on 1, let's say, I go to the next trial, I press 0, go to the next one, 1, 1, and 1. And that's it. Data saved, experiment finished. So after you use the natural language form, the first thing you need to do is to go into trial file and to access the trial file so that you can customize the experiment. The trial file is the single most important thing linked to a testable experiment. It's a CSV spreadsheet that looks like this. I think you only see my browser. So let me share also my desktop so that it's easier to follow. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this one, right. Okay, so hopefully now you see the whole desktop and you see the trial file. That's how it looks like. That's how it looks like. You see here one row for the instruction screen because we wanted one screen for instructions, and then we have one row for every trial that we have in our experiment. We have 5 trials and 5 rows here. The first row in the trial file is reserved for the column names. These refer to the attributes that we want to define for our experiment. So in this case, if we go one by one, we have the type of the trial, can be instructions or can be a test. The test is the main one that we use to record the data from participants. Then we have STEAM 1, STEAM 2, and STEAM 3. These are the 3 stimuli that we want to present in every trial. And these are the names of the images, the file names of the images that we want to present. So image1.jpg, image2.jpg, image3.jpg. If we want to present some animals, let's say, and our images are called cat, dog, squirrel, then we'll have to modify that to reflect the file names of the stimuli that we want to present. So we'll have something like that. But we need to make sure now that these images are available in the stimuli here. So we need to upload the stimuli to Testable. These are the default images, the default stimuli that we have when we create a quick project. If I'm modifying the trial file and I define some stimuli which are not available, which are not uploaded to stimuli, you will see that I get a warning in Testable. So I save that file, and now if I want to re-upload it, you'll see this warning: stimuli files are missing cat JPEG, dog JPEG, and squirrel JPEG. Okay, so let's go back here and let's stick with our images for now. So you can modify here the title for the instructions and the content for the instructions. These are the columns that are used only for instructions, title and content. So you can say my first study. Oops, let's write it correctly. And here, content for instructions, you can say press 1 or press 0 or 1, let's say, something like that. And you can also change the text to appear on the button. So you see here, it's button 1, and that's why we have the button on the instruction screens, because we define it here. And we can change, we can say start, and then the button is going to have this, this text. Then we have keyboard. That's used to define the keys that are enabled on the keyboard. So you can type in whatever you want here. So if you type in ASD, that means that you want the participant to be able to press on A, S, or D. You can also define things like space, left, right for the arrows, or enter. But otherwise, it's single digit, single letter keys that that you can define here. Let's go with ASD, for example. Then we have presentation time, press time. That's the 3 seconds that we define with the natural language form. If I delete here something, there is no presentation time defined. That means that it's an unlimited presentation time. Let's leave it like that. And then this is the trial text. That's the text that appears in every trial above the stimuli. Again, we can repeat the instructions here. Let's say press 0 or 1. Okay, let's copy everything. That's column key. That's where you define the correct responses for every trial. Let's say that in every trial, the correct response is 1. And then column random is used to randomize the trials. So everything that is marked, every set of consecutive trials that is marked with the same number here is going to be randomized within. So these 5 trials here will be randomized. If we have 1, 1, 1, and then 2, oops, 2, 2, then we'll first see these 3 trials in a random order, and then we'll see these 2 trials in a random order. Let's keep it all randomized for now. All the advanced options we will discuss during the other webinar how to create experiments with Testable. Now I'm giving you just a brief overview of what you can do with Testable. So whatever changes you make, you need to save the CSV and re-upload it to Testable. I should say that none of the columns are required. So except for the type. Type is the only column that is required in a trial file because we need to know the type of the trial. Apart from that, you can delete the columns that you don't need. So let's say that you want to present only 2 stimuli in the trials, not 3 images. Then you can delete it like that, everything that that is typed under column stim3, or you can delete the column entirely. You can also move the columns around. Doesn't matter, the order is not important. And also you can add your own trials here. And these trials are not going to be used by the program, by the software, but they will be saved in the results file. So you can use that to help you with organization of results, for example, or to remember the conditions that you had in different trials. So you can have a column that is called, let's say, condition 1, and then you say this was the upright, for example, upright condition, and this is the inverted condition. Maybe you present some images inverted, right? And you just want to remember. And then you're going to have this information saved in your trial file. So let's save this. We re-upload it to Testable. Okay, and then we can access again the experiment link. And we should see the new version of the experiment. Again, starting with the calibration screen, and then we see the text that we edit. My first study, the instructions, press 0 or 1. We can see the new button, start, and then we see 2 images because we deleted 1 column. Remember, in this case, because trials are randomized, we get a trial with images that stay on the screen for unlimited time. So I will press A to go forward. This one is again for unlimited time. I press again to go forward, and so on. This is for limited time, disappeared. So I need to press, I press this one as well, I press this one, and I get the results saved. Okay, so how do the results look like? So we have 1 results file per participant. And the naming of the files goes like that. The first 6 digits refer to the code of the experiment, and they are related also to the link. So you see this code here, 424386 in this case, and that's exactly what we had, what we have here. Then we have the year, the month, the day. Then we have the hour, minute, and second. If we record the participant ID, then we append that to the file name as well. So how do they look like, this results file? We can download it and open it. So it looks like this. You see first some information about the local machine running the experiment. So you see the browser version, the resolution of the screen, the operating system, the GMT timestamp and the local timestamp when the experiment was accessed, the link that was accessed, and also the calibration factor that refers to the calibration screen, whether we made some changes to the line, whether we shorten it or made it longer. And then we have the same information from the trial file, what we defined, with some extra columns added. The first column is row number. So that shows the position of each trial in the original trial file. So that's obviously important when we randomize the trials. So in this case, we first saw trial number 3 in row 3. Then we saw trial in row number 4, then trial in row number 5, then trial in row number 7, and then trial in row number 6. Okay. Then we have some extra columns as well added here after everything else. So you see also the column that we just defined to help us summarize the information with the different conditions. And then we see the ITI, the intertrial interval actual, the presentation time actual, and we see also the timestamp, response, RT, and correct. So in this case, we have milliseconds from the start of the experiment. Then we have the response provided by the participant. We have A for the first trial, and then 1, 1, 1. And that's because, remember, for this one, we have ASD as responses, and then we had 1 or zeros. Oops. Okay, if I want to go back here. Then we have the response time in milliseconds again, and then we have information whether the trial was correct or not. And that's basically matching the response with the information that we have in column key here. Okay, so this is how this data is saved. Obviously, when you have hundreds of participants, it's a bit annoying to pull all the data together, or you need to write your own script. But fortunately, you don't need to do that. We do that for you. If you click on the button wide format here, we pull all the data and we create a wide format results file with one participant per row and all the responses on different columns. So you can use that to import directly into SPSS or R or whatever you are using for data analysis. Okay. Starting with this very basic experiment, you can get to very, very complex experiments in Testable by using the different options that we have available, the different columns that we have available, or the attributes that we define for every experiment. For an overview of everything that is available in Testable, you can access the manual, which is available here. So if you click on the manual, the PDF file gives you some information, how to create an account, sign in, how to get started with a quick project or a new project from scratch. Also some information about setup options. I will show you immediately as well that. And then you have all the columns that are possible to be defined in Testable. And they are organized according to the function that they fulfill. So we have columns to define trial type, to define instructions, to define and position the stimuli, to define the responses, timing parameters, to define other visual content, for example, fixation cross, to define project flow, that's for randomization, for logic, branching, columns to organize trials, and columns to define arena and multiplayer environment. You also have a special section, separate section, for how to inject logic in your experiment. So that's for branching. As well, how to easily create a staircase experiment, yeah, for testable arena, for the multiplayer environment, and for creating surveys as well. We'll cover that in separate webinars, so you can sign up for one of these seminars for these details. But if you're looking for some information, if it's possible or not in Testable, the best thing to do is just to do a simple search. So let's say you are looking for randomization, and then you can see all the options that are available. For example, trials randomization, you do it with column random, or block randomization, you do it with column random block. So that's how we present information about all the columns that are possible to be defined in Testable. There are other resources available as well. You have the Help Center. So if you click here, you will be taken to our knowledge base, some information, getting started using Testable Arena. You can check all of that. You can also type in a question here or search for information. Let's say, what is a trial file? And then you should get some articles suggested for you. Fundamentals of the trial file, what is the maximum number of stimuli per trial, and so on. So you can select from those. As well, we have a community where you can post your questions and either us or someone else, a user, is going to answer that question. You can check some of the old questions as well to see maybe your question was already answered. And if this doesn't work, you can always contact us by clicking on help here, bottom right of the screen. So if you click on help, you can leave us a message, leave your name, email, the problem that you are facing or the question that you are having, send us an email, and yeah, we'll make sure to respond to your question. So this is about Testable. Let me quickly go through the setup options as well. Here is where we can define some attributes that refer to the whole experiment. So you can change the name of the project. You can choose the language for your experiment. These are the options currently available: French, Dutch, Hebrew, Mandarin, and Farsi. You can have a password, and then you need to define the password. So only participants who know that password can run the experiment. You can enable advanced randomization. That's based on the advanced randomization available on random.org, the one based on atmospheric noise. You can enable a progress bar so that participants know where they are while doing the experiment. You can change the background color of the screen. You can change the text color here. You can require participants to do the experiment in a full screen. You can get rid of the calibration screen if you don't like it at the start of the experiment. You can present a consent page at the start, but then you would need to upload also a file containing your consent form. You can record participant details. For example, you may want to record the ID, age, sex, education, ethnicity, nationality, and you can also define your own. Let's say whatever, Netflix subscription, if that's what you want to record from the participants. A screen with general instructions. This just tells participants to be careful not to be disturbed during the experiment. What kind of information you'd like to record from the local machine, so the operating system, web browser, screen size. You can also record the whole experiment from start to end. Make sure that if you save the data in the cloud with us, it may take a long time to upload an audio file for a very long experiment. And you can also record the frame rate throughout the experiment. And then you have you have to decide where you want to save the results. By default, they are saved with us in the cloud, or they may be saved locally on the user's computer as well. Then there's the general tab. You also have the audience tab. So that's where you define the audience for your experiment. So you can require only one participation per IP. You can protect against bots, adding a reCAPTCHA at the start of your experiment. You can define the maximum experiments that you want in your experiment, the maximum participants. And here you will have a counter. If you have between subjects experiment, you can ensure even allocation to the different subject groups by clicking here. You can also filter participants by country, so make your study available only to US or UK participants or whatever country you want to select from here. And you can choose the devices on which the experiment should run. You may want to disable the mobile tablets or the mobiles, different operating systems and so on, or leave them all checked in. Then we have a tab for defining the debrief screen. That's the text that appears at the end of the experiment. We have some basic visuals that you can add for participants to see how they've done during the experiment, some basic graphs and tables. And that's the tab for the multiplayer environment. That's going to be the topic of another seminar, how you can make any testable experiment into a multiplayer experiment. So that's about it for Testable. And then let me take you to Testable Minds. I will just Stop sharing for a second so that I can check a question here. Okay, the question is if it is possible to select a file at random from a folder of images. So you can do that with the column random pick. You need to define all the trials possible in an experiment in this case, and then select how many of them you would like to actually present during the experiment. So let's say you have 1,000 images to rate for attractiveness, for example, but then you don't want to present all the 1,000 images to one participant, just a sample of 100. Then you need to mark all these trials, 1,000 trials, have the column random pick and put 100 in all these trials. And then the program is going to randomly pick only 100 out of the 1,000 stimuli that are available. Another question, what kind of audio formats are supported? MP3 only for now. So you need to convert all your files into MP3. Okay, let's share again the browser. Keep on asking me questions if you do have some, and I will answer them after I present Testable Minds. So Testable Minds is the subject pool, the participant pool that we have, 12,000 participants. And I was telling you about the most advanced verification system. So how does it work? Participants have the option to become verified minds. What this means is that they need to submit a photo ID and they need to submit a live webcam photo. We use a face recognition algorithm to match the live webcam photo with the photo that appears on the photo ID. If there is a good match there, it's only then that we approve these participants. Furthermore, we check the information that is supplied on the photo ID. So we check the location, we check the age, date of birth, and we check the sex at birth from the photo ID, and we mark this information as verified in our database. Then we throw away the photo IDs. We don't keep them, but we keep the webcam photo. So every time participants want to sign up for a new experiment, they need to go for face authentication. Again, submit a webcam photo and make sure that that photo matches what we have stored from them. In this way, we can be 100% sure that there are no bots in our experiments or among our participants, something that is quite difficult in the other participant polls. And also, we make sure that at least some of the demographic information is verified, location, age, and sex. We also make sure that the participation is unique, because one participant cannot take part more than once using different IP addresses and so on, cannot take part more than once in the same experiment. So this is how it looks like now, the participant pool, the researcher side. You can access it from the left menu here. Click on Testable Minds, subject pool, and then if you want to post a new study, you need to click on new study, and then you will get a thing like that. Let's do it. So if I click here on new study, I will get to complete this information related to name of the study. That's going to be only for me to know. The URL where the study is available. Testable Minds is software agnostic. We don't care how you created your experiment. It can be in Testable or it can be in any other software. As long as it runs in the browser, that's fine with us. So you can post any link here. You can define the time period for the study, the maximum allowed time, participation fee, and so on, if you want to have verified minds or not. Also, you can select to have participants from the same institution. So if you're a researcher from UCL, for example, like I'm marked in the system, I can have an option to select only people, only participants from UCL. You can have other selection criteria, such as location, first language, and so on. You can see all these criteria here: approval rate, age, sex, and also you can define your own panels of participants. I will go through this in more details when I have the webinar on Testable Minds. And on this side here, you can define the info that is visible for participants: the title of your experiment, description, the area, the estimated duration, and whether you have some special kind of experiment, so presenting graphic images of strong languages and so on. You should warn participants in advance about that. You should also check this, that the experiment is approved by an ethics committee. We require that if you have graphic images or strong languages. And then you need to upload your file demonstrating that the experiment is approved by the ethics committee. And that's it. And then you can just post it. You can launch the batch, assuming that you have the budget available. So depending on how many participants you want here, oops, and the participation fee, we calculate a budget. You must have this money available in your budget, and then you are able to launch the batch. You can see the live batches here. You can see all your past batches here. Let me show you how you will see an old batch with participants. So these are the 3 participants in this batch. You will see their mind ID, sex, age, the result of the face authentication process. So 99% match, location, browser, and so on, duration, all basic information. And that's where you can approve participation as well. Again, all these details in the seminar dedicated to Testable Minds. I have 2 more questions, I think. Oh, no, the questions that I answered, okay. It's fine. And then a few words about Testable Class. We'll have a seminar also for Testable Class. Just an overview now. You can use this space to create classes of experiments. Classes are collections or sets of experiments that you want to make available to your students. So let's say you have a class, Psychology 101, for example. You can choose when to make it visible to students from your university, so you can hide it before you want to start it with your students. You can also duplicate or delete classes and so on. If you access a class, you can see all the experiments that you have added to that class. And again, they look very similar to how projects look in Testable, because they are testable projects. But you have these 4 options to the left. So you can choose when to make the experiments visible to students. So students can sign up for your class, and they see the experiments only when they become live, only when you make them live. So you can make experiments available from one week to the other. You can mark experiments for credit. And also, you can allow students to import the experiments into their account and or to modify them. If you allow only the import but no modifications, then the students can collect data for you, and everything is going to be pulled together into this space, so you'll see all the results. If you allow them to modify the tests, then there is no more link, so you'll not get the results that the students collect, because it can be any kind of other experiment. How do you add tests here? Well, you can import some of the testable experiments you created, available under My Projects here. Or you can import tests from the list of already made experiments. This list you can find here. So if I click here, you can select import my class, all this available, all these experiments that are available. And this is the list. So we have around 50 ready-made experiments, ranging from face matching, digit span, attentional blink, change blindness, go, no-go, flanker task, implicit association test, Posner queuing task, Ponzo illusion, and so on. You can check all of them here. Once you import a ready-made experiment to your class, it becomes completely yours. So it's 100% customizable. You can change the instruction, you can change the stimuli, You can change the timing parameters. You can do whatever you want. It's like a regular testable project just by importing it here and accessing the trial file that is associated with that experiment. And here you can also visualize results. So you can ask students to complete an experiment in class, and then as the results become available, you can see them in these figures or in a table, whatever you choose to present to the students. So that's about it for the basic introduction to Testable. If you have any questions, I will wait for 1 minute. You can type in the Q&A. If not, I'm hoping to have some of you also sign up for the other webinars, depending on what you're interested in how to create experiments with Testable, or how to create surveys, how to use the subject pool, how to use Testable Class, or how to use Testable Arena, the multiplayer environment. Also, if you don't have questions now, but you have questions later, feel free to contact us. So you can use this here, the help button on our website, and send us the questions. We'll try to answer all your questions very, very fast, usually within 24 hours. Well, I hope that was useful. I can see no more questions for now. Thanks a lot, everyone, and I hope to get to see you on Testable, and I hope Testable is going to be useful for you. Goodbye, and sign up for the other webinars. Ciao, ciao.